Welcome, everybody. We are super excited to have you join us for this webcast, so thanks for taking the time out of your day. Just so you know, this will be recorded and will be made available to you afterwards. So my name is Tanya Webb, and I thought I would put a face to a name. And so this is me. I manage the recruiting team here at Puppet Labs, and I also run the internship program. And I purposely picked this photo for a couple of reasons. The first is it was obviously taken during one of our intern community service activities, but I also chose it because it shows our enthusiasm for our program. It's a pretty big program with us, and it's extremely important. There's definitely huge support throughout the company. And so there's been support from the very beginning. And just a little bit of information about our internship program. It's really only been a few years old. We officially kicked it off in 2013 with 10 interns. And just to give you an idea of how important this program is to us, that made up 10% of the total number of employees back then. So that's pretty big. They were mostly engineering interns, had a couple of IT. Last year, we had 15 interns, and what was exciting is that we expanded into other groups. So we added HR, finance, and business optimization. This year, we plan to expand into even more groups, adding customer success and marketing, in addition to the other groups that we had already existing. And the biggest thing that we really are pretty proud of is our program is centered around providing meaningful work and really giving an opportunity for the interns to take part and really actively contribute to our success. And quite frankly, just to share a little bit of a side note, we do have managers and groups that request interns. Not everybody gets them, and one of the reasons is we want to make sure to have the right mentors in place and we have the right capacity and roadmaps before our interns begin. So that's just an idea of how important it is to us. Obviously, the goal is to also hire interns as regular employees, whether immediately after the internship or even after graduation. And you'll hear some of the stories of how that happened with some of our interns. It's an awesome program. Of course, I'm pretty biased, which is why today it's important that you are not going to hear about a day in the life of one intern. You'll actually hear the perspectives of 4 of our former interns. So these are the 4 that will be talking to you today. We'll basically do a roundtable format where each of them will share their stories. And then we'll do a Q&A session at the end and open it up to all of you for questions. But before we dive in, we wanted to give you a bit of a visual of our environment and basically virtually welcome you into our space. And hopefully, as our interns are sharing these experiences, you can kind of get a sense for who we are and our culture and just basically our environment. And then during the Q&A session, there will be more photos, so you'll get to see a little bit more after that. So, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Will.
All right. Hey, yeah, my name's Will, but most everyone I know, both here at Puppet and everywhere else really, calls me Whopper, sort of as a result of my initials there. And I'm a student at Portland State University. As for what I've done at Puppet Labs, in a nutshell, I actually went through 3 full internships until this last summer when I decided to stay on as a regular employee while I finished up school. And in those 3 internships, I worked as a release engineer, a web app developer, and most recently, a Ruby and C++ developer. And then after ending that last one, I decided I was close enough to being done with school to just stay on the same team as a regular employee. And yeah, that's pretty much me. All right, so my origin story and how I ended up getting to Puppet Labs. Like I mentioned, I'm a student at Portland State, and specifically I'm a computer science major. And while being a CS major has been helpful for what I've done in engineering, really what played the biggest role for me was the CAT Brain Dump program in the College of Engineering, which I joined when I was just a freshman. And really briefly, what that program was a volunteer-run system administration training course for students. And there we used Puppet really heavily to manage all of our servers. So for me, that was really cool because I got to get a lot of hands-on experience with Puppet before I even knew anything about the company. And of course, while I was there, I made a lot of friends and contacts, and a bunch of them ended up coming to work at Puppet Labs. So in my second year, I heard about some internships sort of from my inside friends, and I applied, and the rest is pretty much history. All right, so moving on. One of the things I totally would have asked current interns if we had done a thing like this when I was first starting would have been, what's an average day like, and like what do you do? So for that, I'm basing my answer on my last internship, which is still freshest in my mind. And basically, the most important thing I think I can say here is that as an intern, you will be doing real, actual work. And you'll have at least one mentor and a manager who will create an overall sort of roadmap for you with goals to accomplish right at the start, which is really nice. And then from then on, you'll be coding away on tasks that you're given. But as far as the tasks that you're given, you won't just be thrown into any crazy complicated code bases without any help at all. And actually, a big part of the day-to-day as an intern, an engineering intern, is pair programming with your mentor on tickets. So you'll spend a lot of time investigating issues and writing code together, which is really, really fun and really, really informative. And along with that, not only will you work with your mentors, but you also will get time to work with other interns just whenever you have time, which is also really cool. And there's also plenty of times when you'll get to a point that you can handle a ticket or an issue all by yourself, which is a great sign of progress. And as you can see here, on most teams, there's plenty of tickets to work on in our backlog. Like this is our Puppet project backlog of tickets. So you'll be able to work independently and put your changes up on GitHub for your team to review and eventually merge. So next up, this is just a really quick example of an actual project that I worked on during my second internship, sort of using the processes that I just talked about. And this particular project was a data visualization web app that I wrote for the delivery team with the help of several mentors. All right, so the very last thing I wanted to talk about is sort of the social experience of the internship program. And for me, this was really, really important, a really important part of the overall experience and really part of why I kept coming back. So everything I've talked about up till this point was sort of revolving around the technical experience that you get out of the program, which is really, really great, obviously. But for me, what was also probably just as important were all of the really good friends I made here along the way. And, it's always a ton of fun just hanging around with the people at Puppet. And as an intern, you get to jump in and experience the culture of this company, firsthand, which is really awesome. So this is one of my favorite moments, and we'll all have a few of these. But so this one in particular was the whole intern crew last summer on the night of our Star Trek party, where our friend Prabin, the resident Star Trek expert, who's in the red shirt on the right there, put up a vote for 4 episodes for us all to watch, like really solid classic Star Trek episodes. So we gathered up a bunch of office furniture, kicked back and watched some Trek on the big screen, which you can see on the right there. And yeah, that was a lot of fun. And that is all I really have. So on to Johanna.
All right, yeah. Hi, I'm Johanna. I was the IT intern here at Puppet, and now I'm a regular employee with the IT department. I studied history at Reed College, and I graduated this past December. So I was in the intern program the summer of 2014. I received an offer at the end of my internship, and then went back to finish my last semester of school, and I got back here in December. Often people are surprised to hear that my educational background is totally different from what I do now. I've always enjoyed working with computers, but I've never really studied it formally. I ended up getting a job at my school's IT department, which I think gave me sort of the background and interest to pursue an internship here. That's actually one of the things I like working about working at Puppet in general, is that a lot of people here are on second careers or have come here from totally different educational backgrounds and experiences. So I think it makes for a really nice, diverse and interesting group of people to work with. And now I'll give you sort of my typical day as an IT intern. So I started with a lot of shadowing other people on the team and sort of doing training, but eventually became part of the team and had pretty much the same job responsibilities as everyone else, which for IT is a combination of being on call at the help desk and then doing independent project work. So for on-call, everyone takes turns being on a rotation where they're available in case a service goes down at work, and then to provide frontline user support at the help desk as well. So when I'm on call, I'm troubleshooting technical problems and responding to support tickets, and doing AV services for meeting and events, and we have a really cool AV setup, so that's that. And then when I'm not at the help desk, I am working on my own sort of longer-term projects. And usually this means working on tools that are useful for the IT team. So during my internship, for example, I was working on an asset management system to keep track of our hardware and software. And right now I'm working on a little scripting project to automate our video processing at this AV station. And then Oh yeah, like Whopper and Tanya have mentioned, in addition to doing serious, hard intern work, we also had some fun activities during the internship program. So I really enjoyed the Star Trek one, which Whopper mentioned. And then we also had a t-shirt contest. So we were all split up into teams across departments. So I ended up working with a group of engineering folks. And we were given time to design a t-shirt to sort of encapsulate the internship experience. And then we had the company vote on it, and the winner we got printed and distributed. And you can buy it online, I recently learned. So I'm sure you can guess this is my design, and it won by a landslide. So I see this shirt around the office sometimes now, which is really fun. And then I just got a handful of pictures from other stuff this summer too. A group of interns, we did the Portland Parkways bike ride, so up in the left corner is that. And then a bunch of us lived in Southeast Portland, and we had this really beautiful bike commute to work, so I'd sometimes meet up with people and ride bikes to work and go home, and that's a picture from the route. And I think I'll turn it over to Brian.
Thanks. Yeah, my name's Brian Kane. Recently got my master's in CS over at Kansas State University. I'm not actually from Portland. So yeah, this was my internship experience was my first time in Portland, which was pretty great. It was in 2013. I started on the Puppet Enterprise team. And then at the end of my internship, I was able to get an offer and still be able to finish my master's, which was really great. And this past summer, 2014, is when I started full-time here on the Enterprise team. So yeah, my origin story. I didn't really know anything about Puppet at all. What happened was Jeff Weiss, he is someone who works here, and he was an alum where I went to school. He was just stopping by to give a talk to my department about how to get a job and how to be successful. And so I was like, yeah, I'll just listen in and see what he has to say. Like I said, never heard of Puppet, and actually it turned out really well. We kind of connected on Vim and biking, and we also asked him some questions like, what's it like to work at an open source company? And that was just a new experience. I had never really interacted with other companies that had an open source component. So it was a good first introduction to Puppet. And so one of the projects I worked on as an intern is this tool called Puppet Gatling. And so here at Puppet, we use Jenkins pretty extensively for testing and performance. And one thing that was needed was to kind of test the different sort of performance between different versions of PE and Puppet. And so my project was essentially to write this tool that kind of, we already had a performance test project going, so it would run all the numbers essentially for each merge, and then my plugin would take all that data and essentially make these different graphs, which I'll show here real quick. Also, it was in Java, so this was sort of like a job view here, and my plugin on the bottom right kind of had this sort of overview graph of all the different jobs and like different versions of PE and like how well we were doing between commits. And a more detailed view here, like these are, I think, PE 2.8 and PE 3 from a while ago, and it's like, how long did it take Puppet to run? How long did it take for the catalog to be compiled? And so it just gave some like quick feedback for developers to see like how well we were doing as the project progressed. And the other thing I really liked from my internship experience was the sort of tight feedback I got with my mentor, Chris. And one good example of that here is, so I had a sort of contained project, but we still kind of practiced Git workflow. So for each time I would complete a ticket, I would put up this pull request. And so my mentor would look through it, look at all the code and say, hey, I think maybe you should change this code here to be more readable, or this is an easier way to do this. And so this screenshot here is like an example of one of the pull requests. And it was really good to kind of get that really quick feedback and get that review. It was really helpful. So another thing that I really enjoyed about the internship experience. So when I first started, we used this program at Puppet called HipChat, and it's a way for teams to talk to each other throughout the day. But there was really no place for interns or to ask sort of the new questions you're going to have at a company, like how do you even fill a timesheet, or how do you get Puppet running? And so I made this room essentially for sort of a safe area to ask those questions, and then also kind of turned into a way for all of the interns to kind of connect during their experience over the summer. And this is sort of a screenshot of us sort of laughing at this new icon someone added, Left Shark. And yeah, so it's sort of a place that we all kind of connected to. Oh yeah, and so this is sort of a picture from 2013, I believe. We one of our internship experiences we did was we dropped off backpacks at different schools around Portland with different various school supplies, and that's us here. At one point, I think we asked the person, is there a record for how many backpacks someone has ever carried? And I think he might have given us like a low number, like 20 or something. And so, of course, being the competitive group that we were, we had to beat it. And you can see AJ here on the left. I think we loaded him up with 68 backpacks. It was pretty full. And yeah, we delivered them to different schools. It was pretty great. They had, notebooks, pencils, all the sort of things that a student would want during the school year. Yeah, and some other stuff we would do around the office. This is actually the old office here. We had things like ping pong and darts, and that sort of having those things around the office was a really great thing to have. Just if you wanted to take a break, it was something that you could kind of get up and just do something slightly physical, and just have it contrast with sitting at your desk all day. And also it kind of again brought our competitive element out. I think Whopper and I at one point were playing ping pong every single day.
Every day.
Trying to get good. So it was really great to have that sort of stuff around. And as you can see on the right, we're trying to mess up Jeff so that he doesn't destroy us like he always did in darts.
Jeff was good at darts.
He was. So the other thing, I guess, is my final slide. Another thing I really enjoyed, again, with the competitive nature of our group, I sent out an email challenging anyone at the company to come eat what's called a Super Mac. And so it's this ridiculous burger, as you can see. And so we all kind of showed up at this restaurant and ordered it. And it was a good way to sort of reach out to people other than interns at the company and say, hey, come eat with us and watch us eat this ridiculous burger. And so that's also Brandon on the right there. He was an intern a few years ago, and yeah, it was fun.
So before we turn it over to our last intern, I just wanted to remind everybody to submit questions if you have them in the lower left-hand corner. And then once Jean is done, we'll go right into questions. We'll go right into answering those questions.
Cool. I'll turn over to Jean.
Awesome, thanks. So let's see. I'm Jean, and I finished my master's degree last summer also at Portland State University. I was in the technical writing program there. Right after I graduated, I got an internship here, and then I graduated from the internship program and was hired as a regular employee on the technical publications team. So now I edit and write documentation for our products. Okay, let's see. So let's see. So how I got here, like I said, I was in the master's program, and doing the master's program and starting here at Puppet was a second career for me. I came from journalism and book publishing background, but I wanted better opportunities than those fields were offering at the time, and tech was definitely a field where writing was growing and expanding and in need. I always enjoyed computers and technical subjects anyway, so it was a really good fit for me. So that's what took me back to school. As I was finishing my program, I heard about the Puppet Labs internship through the program director of my program at Portland State. I wasn't actually applying for internships or jobs at that time because I was in my last term of school and I just wanted to focus on that and get done and then start looking for stuff in the summer. But the culture and the team at Puppet sounded so exciting, and they just were a huge draw for me. It sounded like an awesome place to be, so I decided to go for it. One of the things about starting a second career was that I was a little nervous about interning alongside people who, in some cases, were actually younger than my own children. So that was a little nerve-wracking, and I wasn't sure how that was going to feel or fit in. But when I got here, I was really happy to see a diverse age range among the interns and among the other employees as well. So in the end, age didn't really seem to matter at all. As you've already seen, we hung out together and did things together and had a really good time. And everybody was just super friendly and easy to get along with. So it turned out to not be daunting at all. I did have some advice for people who are thinking about an internship here or thinking about employment here. And my advice comes as a technical writer. You want to ask questions. You should be comfortable if you want to do something like that in talking to technical folks, asking questions, getting clarification on things you don't understand. Technical writer's job is about learning things from experts and then explaining those things in a way that non-experts can understand. You want to become familiar with the basic problems that system administrators face in their daily jobs. That's kind of what Whopper was saying too. Our product is for them, so the better you understand those problems, the more helpful your documentation or your engineering projects will be. It just gives you a context in which to work. So that's really important. The other thing I would say is for people who want to go into tech writing, practice writing and familiarize yourself with basic best practices for technical writing, such as how to write steps to a document, or how to write steps to a process, write in an imperative voice. You tell the user what they should do next, that sort of thing. And while I'm talking specifically as a technical writer, these really aren't just tips only for technical writers. They're really good advice to anyone. And even the practicing writing, the engineers here do a ton of writing about what they're working on, and they do a lot of documentation themselves. So good writing is really important in that too. So a typical day as an intern, for me, I actually went back in my calendar and picked out a specific day about a month into my internship that looked pretty typical. So on a normal day, I would come in and grab some coffee and sit down and sort of plan out what I was going to work on that day. And then you go to stand-ups, and for those who don't know, stand-ups are brief team meetings where you stand up, and it takes about 10 or 15 minutes, and you just everybody touches base about what they worked on the previous day, what they're going to work on that day. It gives you a good opportunity to touch base with everybody on your team and see if something else is needed or anything like that. Then I'd get some actual writing done. At that time, I was editing and updating existing documents and documenting some internal processes. It's actually still mostly what I'm doing. Meet with your team leads, see what kind of projects are coming down the pipe. Wednesdays, we would have a company lunch, and so the company brings in lunch for everybody, and it gives you a chance to kind of meet other people, that maybe sit and eat lunch with people that you don't normally interact with on a day-to-day basis. Get to know people around the company. It's a really great thing. It's a really good opportunity to get to know others. And then for the interns, we specifically had occasional, not every week, but occasional lunch and learns. So you might hear from, say, people in the product or user experience departments and find out what they do on a day-to-day basis. So you get to learn about what other people in other departments are doing. Then I probably would settle in and do some more work, maybe some study. I was working through the Puppet Learning VM during my internship, and also working on my command line skills because I did not have strong command line experience. And even if you're not working as an engineer, a lot of people are still working in command lines for various reasons, as was I. So practicing that. And then that day I had a planning meeting with an engineering team that I was working with, and that's just good practice to kind of know what's going on with people on your teams that you're working with. And screenshots of documentation are usually not very interesting, but I did want to give you at least an example of what our writing style is like here. I wrote this as part of updating a document on Geppetto, which is basically an IDE for Puppet. And it just gives you an idea of the style that we work in here. This was, you can see it's a pretty direct, informal voice. I actually see a spot where I wish I had used a contraction instead, because that makes the writing a little more relaxed. But that's kind of nitpicking, so. And then here's me working and talking to a team lead actually about a document in this photo. So I don't have that much else to say about this photo. This is what it's like to work here. One of my favorite things we did during our internship was the Oregon Food Bank Day. We did a community service project, and the one this time, I think before you guys took backpacks, yeah. Mm-hmm. So this one was we went and bagged oats at the Oregon Food Bank. And that was great because, first of all, it was really nice to know that we were helping to feed people. The Oregon Food Bank really depends on volunteer work for these things. If people don't come do this, they don't get the food out. So that was really nice. Also, we had a lot of fun. It was fun to get out of the office and do something physical and kind of give back. And some of us may have stopped for ice cream on the way back to the office, and that was a lot of fun. And I think that's it.
Awesome.
So back to you, Tanya.
So, wow, we have been getting a lot of questions. Thank you very much. So we are going to go ahead and jump right into the Q&A session. Some of them are duplicates, so we'll try and cover as many as possible in the next 15 minutes, and then we'll go from there. And then as we're answering questions, again, you'll see photos of our environment and some fun stuff. So I will go ahead and start. One of the questions that has come through is, what will be the start date for the summer internship? So typically our summer internship program starts in May and runs through as late as August, September. So really it depends on the availability of the people that we hire. So some people are available as early as early May, and we've had people start as late June. So it truly depends on you. But they typically run for about 3 months.
Okay, I'll take one next. So this question is, do interns get to contribute to Puppet Lab's open source projects while working here? And the answer is, for me at least, definitely, absolutely yes. At my last internship, just this last summer, every single thing I did was on open source projects. I think it also depends on which team you're on. Most teams have some open source components to them in engineering. There may be a few that I'm not thinking of, but the answer is yes.
Cool. All right, this question is, other than technical skills, what other parameters do you look for in job candidates? I would say 2 things. One is we hire really nice people who are good at working with other people, which I think is great. We do a lot of collaborative work here, so good people skills, and it's just people who are nice to spend time with. And then I think the other thing is that it's really not possible to know every single technology or skill you need to coming into a job here. So for me, I didn't have a lot of experience with Git, and I had never used Puppet coming here, and those are both tools that I need to know now. But those didn't disqualify me from working here. It just meant that I was learning continuously on the job. So I think a willingness to learn more skills is a great attribute too.
Cool. I'll take one. So one question it looks like I got is, what kinds of projects are written in Clojure, and are they available for interns? So recently we've been doing a ton of stuff in Clojure, specifically things like Puppet Server, Trapper Keeper, Puppet DB, RBAC, Node Classifier, and PE. I'm sure there's a bunch more, but and also, are they available for interns? Yes. Last summer, I think we had 3 interns on 3 different Clojure projects. And then the summer when I was an intern, AJ actually had his own brand new Clojure project called Du Jour, which was used to have PE check in and see how many licenses we're using, basically. Yeah.
Cool. So let's see, we have a question about what the first days look like. So the first days are sort of a whirlwind. There's some orientation activities, a couple of full days of orientation activities, and then let's see, my first days involved me spending a lot of time with the manager of my department or of my team. Or both, and getting set up with the tool chain and beginning to learn Git. I have spent a lot of time with somebody teaching me how Git worked, and yeah, just kind of trying to it's more about getting prepared to do your work in the first few days. So I think they did a really good job of kind of setting everything up so that it was comfortable getting started. It wasn't like you get to do real work, but you're not thrown in just right away. So there's a lot of time to get set up and all of that.
Okay, so the next question is, are all available internships posted online, or will there be more? So no, they are not all posted yet. We have our engineering internship positions posted, a service analyst, and we just posted a couple more yesterday. One a technical writer and another a digital marketing intern. We have a couple more that I know that are coming through customer success within the next couple of weeks. So we are hiring multiple interns, so definitely keep an eye on our job listings.
Okay, back to me. So here's a question that's saying, I started as a freshman intern, correct? Which I think I started as a sophomore, I want to say. It was a long time ago. So the question is, how much coding experience did I have such that I was immediately able to dive in and do meaningful work? So back then, when I was a sophomore, coding itself, I didn't have anything greater than what the CS program provided, but I did have a lot of operations background from the CAT that I mentioned I was in. So up in that point, I had done a lot of scripting in Bash, and I had done a lot of, operations work, which was really helpful for my release engineering internship, which was my first one, because that involved a lot of work using Bash and Git and various Linux distributions. So I had all of that, which was very, very helpful for me. Coding, I don't think I was, I had done some slight scripting and things like that, but I hadn't, nothing more than the CS program, I would say.
All right, so I have, what keeps the culture so positive within your company? And I said before, we hire really nice people, so that helps a lot. I think everyone here really enjoys their work and sort of feels proud of what we produce as a company, and that makes it feel like a team in a way, which I think is a really positive feeling. And then I think also what was really important for me when I was applying is that it's a really inclusive culture. Tech industry doesn't have a great reputation when it comes to women, people of color, other underrepresented groups in tech. And I think I was nervous about that when applying, but I feel really respected and valued here at Puppet. And I think it's really, Puppet's really shown that it's committed to making everyone feel comfortable and included. So.
Yeah, so I'll take one. And this is, I guess, for Jean and I, too, if you want to piggyback off me. It says, do you feel your respective master's programs did a good job preparing you for Puppet? I definitely think so. There were a few classes that I took, like my compilers course, that I feel like I'm constantly coming back to when working on Puppet. So that was a good thing. And the other thing was I ended up taking, I was heavily involved in a security after-school group where we did a lot of system administration and how to secure different operating systems. And I think if you combine those two together, it really helped me essentially work at Puppet.
Yeah, I would agree. I think my master's program really helped me learn, like I said, sort of those best practices and kind of core concepts of technical writing. My bachelor's is in journalism, and I feel like that helped too, and that's a field that sort of fits right in with technical writing because it's still kind of about the same thing I was talking about, right? You still are learning from people who know a lot about something and explaining it to people who don't know a lot about it. But I think that my master's program being, like I said, much more specific to the field was really helpful. And then let's see, I have a question that I think only applies to me in this room, but and it says, would it be weird to have an intern that is over 35? I am over 35. My children are in their mid-20s, so you can do the math from there, I think. But no, it wasn't weird. And I think I talked about that I was afraid that it might be weird, but it wasn't. And I wasn't the only one either. There were 2 other older interns as well. So it was fine. It was not weird. That was great.
Great. So the next question, how often do the community service events come up? So we are definitely adamant about doing at least one. So there's always at least one planned for the summer internship. And we try to select one that obviously can accommodate a bigger group. We definitely have plans to do something a bit different this summer, which will be pretty exciting for us, and that would be to collaborate with other companies. So definitely stay tuned for that. We're pretty excited to be able to partner with other company interns.
Okay, another one for me. So this question is referring to the fact that I had 3 internships, and it's asking what caused me to change between 3 different teams: release engineering, web development, and Ruby C++ over the course of my internships. So there's 2 answers for this, really. The first one is that after my first internship, I really, really liked it here, and I knew I wanted to come back in somehow. And luckily, HR and engineering for me was really, really flexible in what they would let me come back to do. So starting with that second internship, I was able to essentially pick what I wanted to come in, which team I wanted to go with. And so it was really neat. I really liked the people a lot, and I didn't want to, go work somewhere else. That seemed like it could be kind of sad. So I just requested for, different experience to be put on different teams. And this last one is kind of more in line what I ended up wanting to do in the long run. So this is the one I decided to come on to as a regular employee when I was done.
All right, the next question is, does Puppet Labs offer in-house workshops where employees can go into a lecture on learning new skills? So for interns, there are specific lunch and learn programs that we did. I think Jean mentioned those. But they also occur pretty regularly for regular employees, so the whole company will attend them during some lunches. And then as an intern, I was also able to sign up for in-house training programs. Like I needed to learn Puppet because we use it internally. And I ended up attending a 3-day Puppet fundamentals class as an intern, which was pretty cool. And then there's also just a lot of more informal mentoring, not just for interns, but sort of for everyone in the company, I think. A lot of people have connections where they'll meet up to practice a skill or talk to someone who has resources that they could use. So.
Yeah. So another question here. Were you able to land your internship at Puppet Labs without having an inside connection at the company? And I know for me, that answer is yes. I did not know anyone. I barely even knew the company when I was going to Jeff's talk. So it's definitely not a requirement. So yeah.
Okay. I feel like a lot of these are kind of coding specific, but well, there's a question here about how you're placed in teams or with mentors, and I'm not sure exactly how it works in engineering. Actually, one of the things that we did during my internship was that the docs team rotated me through different sort of sub-teams. So docs is an 8-person team, and right now, but we each work with different engineering teams. So like I support modules and platform, and somebody else might support just platform or just Puppet Enterprise. So what we did with my internship specifically was that I rotated through each of the teams. So I worked some with Puppet Enterprise docs, and then I went and worked with modules for a while, and then I worked with core Puppet docs for a while. So that was I thought that was really useful. It gave me a little taste of kind of all of the teams, and then when I was hired, I was placed actually part-time with 2 teams. But so that was a really interesting thing that happened in my team, I think.
Are the Puppet internship interviews more focused on culture fit or on technical job skills, or a balance of both? And it's definitely a balance of both. A typical intern interview will probably be about 2 hours, where you will have a combination of, a 1-to-1 interview with a mentor, and then there are a couple of sessions in that 2-hour time frame where it's a 2-on-1, or where you might be doing some sort of whiteboarding or just a sampling of coding. So yes, it's definitely a combination of both. We are obviously looking at not only your potential, but also, how you might fit within the team, and how you would collaborate, and so on and so forth. And I'm going to actually answer another question, which was, do we offer internships other than in the summer? And the answer is, in the past we have. So there are positions that we've offered off-cycle, and really those just they're few and far between, and those are typically based on the need. But for the most part, our internship program is for the summer.
Okay, so this one was a little bit specific to PSU, but I'm going to kind of shape it to be more general. So this person is asking, what groups in the CAT, Splatniks, Wintel, etc. do you recommend in order to better prepare yourself for an internship at Puppet Labs? So what they're asking really, I think, is what operating systems and platforms are good for an engineer to be familiar with if you're coming into an engineering team. And I would say all of them, especially for the team I'm on. We are the agent team, so we need to be working on all of the platforms that we support for our product. So on a day-to-day basis, I might be working in Linux and then jump over to Solaris and then jump over to Windows. So if you're in the cat, all of them are important. Splatnix is really important, just having really good command line foo so you can do your regular development work and understand what Puppet's actually doing is probably the most important one, but all of those platforms are important if you're going to be an engineer here.
Okay, we've had a couple questions about what it's like to live and work in Portland, and particularly compared to other tech hubs. I'd say first, Portland's really livable. I'd think much more so than the Bay Area or even Seattle. But then also, it's just like a really beautiful, idyllic place to be during the summer. Our office is right downtown, so I bike to work every day along the waterfront. I can go to the food cart, like walk down the street and go to a food cart for lunch. And then I spent a lot of the summer like outdoors sightseeing around Portland. So if you're debating between cities, I would definitely recommend it.
Cool. And one question we could probably all answer, but I'll take the first stab at it, is how large are the teams at Puppet Labs? And so, at least in engineering, if you just focus on engineering, I have about 3 other people on my team at the moment. However, it's pretty common that I'm working with people from UX and docs, so that kind of expands out to probably, no more than 10, I would think. I think that changes probably depending on what area of Puppet you work at. Yeah.
And I think another interesting part of that is that QA and UX and docs are all embedded. So that means that I'm a part of the docs team, but I'm also part of the modules team, and spend time with them, and sometimes you'll sit with them, like a QA person sits with the modules team, and so that you are in team meetings with those teams, and so you kind of see what's going on all the time. And I feel like for positions like QA and docs and UX too, I think it's really valuable to just be sort of immersed in what that engineering team is doing that you're trying to support.
My engineering team, separate from Brian's, I think we have 6 or 7, and we also have QA, 1 or 2 dedicated QA members that'll sometimes sit with us and work with us. So no more than 10, a little bit bigger than Brian's team, but yeah.
Yeah, and then I guess I'm a little different because my team is internally facing rather than working on the product, but there are about 6 people on my core team, and then we are part of a larger group of about 20 people who maintain the internal infrastructure here.
Okay, cool. Somebody asked what I wished I had known, what we wished, not just me, but what we wished we had known before we started here. And I think one of the things I wished I had known was how okay it was going to be that I didn't know everything. That there was just so much support for learning in my internship. And even some support for learning stuff that maybe didn't apply to my job. Like I was fooling around with learning some Python, which is not a language that we learn here, but I wanted to get my feet wet with a little code. And I feel like even that there was really good support around for that. So it was just, everybody was super helpful and friendly, and I probably wouldn't have been so scared.
Yeah, definitely.
So we have time for a couple more questions, so go
okay, this is one I think we've got several variations of. The question is, as engineering interns, what main languages do you use on a daily basis? And this entirely depends on the team you're on. For me, I write a lot of Ruby and C++, and Brian...
and for me right now, it's a lot of Clojure and Puppet, actually, which is kind of cool. And then some Ruby still. And then before I switched teams, actually some Bash. So it's a pretty wide array of choices here.
Yeah, there's also a few, at least one team that does JavaScript.
Yes.
I've never worked
There's
on
several
that team.
teams.
Oh, several teams, okay, yeah. So those are kind of the big 4 or 5, however many we listed.
All right, I guess this is the last question. Okay. Someone asked, how do you measure the performance of an IT intern? And I'll broaden that out to just any intern because I think the feedback system is pretty much the same for everyone. So you're not just flying blind when you start here. You're not given like a project and just told to go do it. One thing I thought was really nice is you get here and you immediately receive a roadmap, which is sort of like what your goals are for the summer, what you're expecting to learn, what you hope to finish, and you sit down with your manager and talk about it and work it out. And then for me, I had regular meetings over the course of the summer with my manager and with my mentor to check in and see how I was doing and what goals I was accomplishing and what I needed help with. So it was a really nice feedback system that I was not ever wondering what I was supposed to be doing next or was I meeting up to these expectations. So.
Awesome. Yeah, so that unfortunately is all we have time for. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, this recording will be made available to you afterwards. So we hope you'll keep an eye on our website, and if you haven't already applied, apply for those internships. Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you.